The desert wind carried dust through the broken shutters of the old ranch house, just like it had every day for the past 23 years. Maya sat on the creaky wooden porch, watching the sun paint the sky orange and pink. Her hands were rough, from work, stained with dirt from fixing fences and tending cattle that didn't even belong to her. Her father, Thomas Bennett, owned one of the biggest ranches in Arizona territory. But Maya, she was just the daughter he never wanted. The daughter who reminded him every single day of the wife he lost bringing her into this world. Maya, get in here and fix my supper. His voice boomed from inside the house like thunder before a storm. She sighed and stood up, brushing the dust off her worn dress. 23 years old, and she still jumped when he called. 23 years of being treated like a servant, in her own home. 23 years of watching other girls in town get married, have families, while she stayed trapped on this ranch. Inside, Thomas sat at the old wooden table, counting coins and muttering under his breath. The ranch was struggling. Everyone knew it. Cattle prices were down and he'd been making bad deals for years. But he'd never admit it was his fault. About time, he grumbled as Maya walked into the kitchen. And don't burn the beans like last time. Maya started cooking like she did every night. She could make a meal out of nothing, patch clothes that should have been thrown away years ago, and handle wild horses better than most men. But to her father, she was worthless. Had a visitor. Today, Thomas said suddenly. Maya's stomach dropped. Visitors usually meant bad news. Ezra Whitman came by. Thomas was trying to sound casual, but Maya could hear something else in his voice. Something that made her hands shake as she stirred the beans. Ezra Whitman, the banker who owned half the businesses in town. A man twice her age with cold eyes and hands that wandered where they shouldn't. A man who looked at women like they were cattle at market. What did he want, Maya asked, though she was afraid she already knew. Well, Thomas cleared his throat. Seems he's looking for a wife, someone to keep his house, maybe give him sons. Maya's spoon clattered to the floor. Father, no. Now hold on. Thomas stood up and Maya could see the desperation in his eyes. He's offering good money, enough to save the ranch. All my debts would be gone. You want to sell me? The words came, out flat, emotionless. But inside, Maya felt like she was drowning. It's not selling, it's marriage. Plenty of girls would be grateful for such an offer. Grateful? Maya's voice was rising now. He's cruel, Father. Everyone knows what happened to his first wife. How she died so young, so sad. Thomas slammed his fist on the table. You'll do as you're told. I fed you, clothed you, kept a roof over your head for 23 years. You owe me this. Maya stared at him. This man who was supposed to protect her, love her, guide her through life. Instead, he saw her as payment for his mistakes. I raised you when I could have sent you to an orphanage, he continued. Your mother died because of you. The least you can do is help me save what she would have wanted me to keep. Those words hit Maya like a physical blow. He'd said them before, many times, but they never stopped hurting, never stopped making her feel like she was poisoned, like everything bad in his life was her fault. The wedding is set for next week, Thomas said, sitting back down. Ezra will come by tomorrow to discuss arrangements. Maya couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She ran outside, past the barn, past the corrals, until she reached the old oak tree at the edge of the property. This was her place, her escape. Under this tree, she'd cried over scraped knees as a child, dreamed about different life as a teenager, and now sat as a woman with nowhere left to run. The stars were coming out, tiny points of light in the endless, dark sky. Maya had always loved the stars. They seemed so free, so far above all the mess and pain of life down here. No man has ever claimed me, she whispered to those stars. Not one has ever looked at me and seen something worth loving. It was true. The few young men in town either feared her father's temper or saw her as damaged goods, the daughter nobody wanted. And now she was being handed over to a man who would own her like he owned his bank, his house, his horses. Maya pulled her knees to her chest and let the tears come. Tomorrow, Ezra would visit. Next week, She'd become his wife. In a year, maybe 2. She'd probably be dead like his first wife, worked to death or worse. She looked up at the stars again, so bright and beautiful and free. "I wish I could just disappear," she said to the darkness. "Just become one of you up there where nobody can hurt me anymore." What Maya didn't know was that someone was listening. Someone who had been watching her for weeks, drawn by her kindness to wounded animals she found and nursed back to health. Someone who saw strength where others saw weakness, beauty where others saw burden. In the shadows beyond the oak tree, a figure moved silently through the desert brush. He had heard every word she spoke to the stars, and something deep in his chest burned with anger at the pain in her voice. His name was Ayanna, though the white settlers called his people by different names. He was Apache, a warrior and hunter who could move through the desert like wind through grass. His village was hidden high in the mountains, far from the cattle ranches and mining towns that were slowly taking over his people's land. He shouldn't be here. His grandfather had warned all the young men to stay away from the white settlements. Nothing good ever came from getting involved with the settlers' world. But something about this woman had caught his attention. For 3 weeks now, he had watched her. She would find injured rabbits, broken-winged birds, even a wounded coyote pup, and nurse them back to health with a gentleness that amazed him. She never tried to cage them or keep them as pets. When they were strong enough, she would set them free. Her father and the other ranch hands never saw this side of her. They only saw someone to order around, someone to blame for their problems. But Ayanna saw the truth. This woman had the spirit of a healer, the heart of someone who understood suffering and wanted to ease it. Now, as he listened to her cry under the stars, he felt something he had never experienced before. The Apache had teachings about this. Sometimes the spirits would show you a person whose path was meant to cross with yours, a person whose pain became your pain, whose joy became your joy. Ayanna had always been a loner, even among his own people. He was respected as a warrior and tracker, but he kept his thoughts and feelings to himself. He had never understood why other young men in his village talked constantly about finding wives, starting families. The idea had seemed unimportant to him, but watching Maya's tears fall in the starlight, something changed inside him. For the first time in his life, he wanted to step out of the shadows. He wanted to speak to her, to tell her that not all men saw her as worthless, that someone could see her true value. But not tonight. Tonight, she needed to grieve. Tomorrow, when the cruel banker came to claim her like property, that would be the time to act. Ayanna melted back into the darkness, moving so quietly that even the desert creatures didn't notice him pass. But his mind was racing. He had seen enough of the white man's world to know what was happening here. The father was selling his daughter to pay his debts. Among his people, such a thing would be unthinkable. Apache women chose their own husbands. They were partners, not property. As he disappeared into the night, Ayanna was already forming a plan. Tomorrow would bring the banker. But it would also bring hope to a woman who had given up on ever finding it. Maya sat under the oak tree until the stars began to fade and the first light of dawn crept across the horizon. She had cried until there were no more tears left. Now she felt empty, hollow, like a shell washed up on a riverbank. Tomorrow, her real life would end. Tomorrow, she would become Ezra Whitman's property. But tonight, for just a few more hours, she was still free to sit under her tree and dream about stars. The next evening arrived too quickly for Maya. All day she had moved through her chores like someone walking through a dream, or maybe a nightmare. Ezra Whitman had come that morning, just like her father promised. The banker was a tall man with thin lips and eyes that reminded Maya of a snake she'd once seen coiled by the water trough. He looked at her the way men looked at horses they were thinking about buying, checking her teeth, her posture, the way she moved. "She's strong enough for work," he had told her father, like Maya wasn't even standing right there. "Can she cook? Keep house?" "Best cook in the territory," Thomas lied smoothly. Maya could barely make beans without burning them, but her father would have promised she could fly if it meant closing this deal. Good. I don't want to have to hire help. Ezra's smile was cold. Wedding's in 6 days. I'll send a dress. Nothing fancy, mind you. Don't want to waste money on frills. 6 days. Maya had 6 days of freedom left. Now, as the sun set behind the mountains, she walked to her oak tree like she had every night for years. But tonight felt different. Final. Tomorrow, the countdown would really begin. She sat in her usual spot and pulled her knees up to her chest. The first stars were just starting to appear in the darkening sky. Soon they would all be out, thousands of them bright and beautiful and free. I don't know how to do this, she whispered to them. I don't know how to marry a man I'm afraid of. I don't know how to pretend to be happy when I want to run away and never come back. A twig snapped somewhere behind her. Maya's head jerked around, her heart pounding. Living on a ranch meant being careful. Mountain lions, bears, sometimes even desperados rode through this country. But when she looked into the darkness beyond her tree, she saw nothing. Hello? A voice said softly. Maya jumped to her feet, ready to run. But something in the voice made her pause. It was gentle, careful, like someone trying not to frighten a wild animal. I don't want to scare you, the voice continued. I heard you talking to the stars. Slowly, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Maya's breath caught in her throat. It was an Apache man, tall and lean, with long black hair and clothes made from buckskin. But his eyes were what stopped her from running. They were kind eyes, warm and understanding. You're, Maya started to say, then stopped. She had been taught to fear Apache warriors her whole life. Stories of raids and battles filled the newspapers. Her father always kept a rifle by the door just in case. But this man held his hands where she could see them, palms open. No weapons, no threat. Just someone standing quietly in the starlight, waiting to see what she would do. My name is Ayana, he said. It means eternal blossom in my language. Maya, she replied without thinking, then immediately wondered if she should have told him her name. Maya, he repeated, and somehow it sounded different when he said it. Better? You come here every night. It wasn't a question. He knew, which meant he had been watching her. Maya should have been terrified, but instead she felt curious. You've been watching me? Yes. He didn't try to lie or make excuses. I saw you helping a wounded rabbit 3 weeks ago. You stayed with it for hours, even though it bit you twice. When it was strong enough, you let it go. Maya remembered that rabbit. It had been hit by a wagon and left by the side of the road to die. She had wrapped it in her shawl and brought water and grass until it could hop away on its own. Why do you care about that? She asked. Ayana was quiet for a moment, like he was choosing his words carefully. My people believe that how someone treats helpless creatures shows their true heart. Your heart is good. No one had ever said anything like that to Maya before. Her father complained that she wasted time on useless animals. The ranch hands laughed at her for caring about every stray cat and injured bird she found, but this stranger saw it as something good. Your people, Maya said slowly. Apache? Yes. She should run. She should scream. She should do something, other than stand there talking to him like they were old friends meeting by accident, but she couldn't make herself move. Aren't you supposed to be my enemy? She asked. A small smile crossed Ayana's face. Are you mine? Maya thought about that. This man hadn't threatened her, hadn't tried to hurt her. He spoke quietly and kept his distance, like he understood she might be afraid. I don't think so, she admitted. Then we're not enemies. They stood there in comfortable silence for a while, both looking up at the stars. Maya kept stealing glances at him, trying to understand what was happening. She had never talked to an Apache before, had never talked to any man who seemed actually interested in what she thought or felt. I heard what you said to the stars, Ayana said eventually. About no man claiming you. Maya's cheeks burned with embarrassment. You shouldn't have been listening. You're right, I'm sorry. But he didn't leave. In my tribe, women choose their own husbands. A man might offer. Gifts prove his worth, but the choice is always hers. Must be nice, Maya said bitterly. Here, women get sold to pay debts. The banker. Again, it wasn't a question. He knew about Ezra Whitman, about the marriage arrangement. How much had he been watching? How much did he understand about her? Situation? My father owes him money. I'm payment. Maya surprised herself by admitting this to a stranger, but somehow talking to someone who wasn't part of her world made it easier to tell the truth. What do you want? Ayanna asked. The question caught her off guard. What? If you could choose. If no one else's debts or needs mattered, what would Maya want? No one had ever asked her that before. Not once in 23 years had anyone wondered what Maya actually wanted for herself. She started, then stopped. The answer felt too big, too impossible to say out loud. I want to matter to someone, she finally whispered. I want someone to choose me because they want me, not because they need something from me. I want to wake up in the morning and not feel like I'm just in everyone's way. Ayanna listened to every word without interrupting, without trying to fix or change what she was saying. He just listened like her words were important enough to deserve his full attention. You matter, he said simply. You don't know me. I know you save wounded animals even when they bite you. I know you cry for things that can't cry for themselves. I know you look at stars and make wishes instead of giving up hope completely. His voice was soft but certain. That tells me everything I need to know. Maya felt tears starting again, but these were different from the bitter tears she had cried. The night before, these felt warm, almost healing. Why are you here? She asked. Really? Because 3 weeks ago I saw a woman show kindness to a creature that couldn't repay her. Because last night, I heard that same woman's heart breaking under the stars. Because my grandmother always said that when the spirits show you someone in pain, you have a choice. You can walk away, or you can help. He paused. I couldn't walk away. They talked until the moon was high overhead and Maya knew she should get back to the house. Ayanna told her about his people, about a way of life she had never imagined. He described a village hidden in the mountains where children learned to track animals by watching shadows, where women were respected as healers and decision-makers, where the elderly were honored for their wisdom instead of seen as burdens. Maya told him about her dreams, her fears, her memories of a mother she had never known. She talked about feeling trapped, about watching other people's lives move forward while hers stayed frozen in place. I should go, she finally said, though she didn't want to leave. This conversation, this connection, felt more real than anything that had happened to her in years. Tomorrow night, Ayanna asked. Maya knew she should say no. Meeting like this was dangerous for both of them. If her father found out, if anyone in town discovered she was talking to an Apache, there would be consequences, bad ones. But when she looked at Ayanna's kind eyes, when she remembered how it felt to have someone actually listen to her, she couldn't bring herself to care about the danger. Tomorrow night, she agreed. As Maya walked back to the ranch house, she felt something she hadn't experienced in so long she had almost forgotten what it was like. Hope. For the first time in years, she was looking forward to tomorrow instead of dreading it. Behind her, Ayanna watched until she was safely inside, then disappeared into the desert like he had never been there at all. But the connection between them remained, invisible, but strong, like a thread spun from starlight and possibility. 5 days. That's all Maya had left before she became Mrs. Ezra Whitman. 5 days before her life became something she couldn't escape from. But every evening brought her secret meetings with Ayanna under the oak tree. Each night, their conversations grew deeper, their connection stronger. He told her stories about Apache legends, about warriors and healers and wise women who shaped their people's destiny. She shared memories she had never told anyone, dreams she had buried so deep she had almost forgotten they existed. On the 4th night, Maya arrived at the oak tree to find Ayanna already waiting. But tonight something was different. He seemed restless, like he was carrying news he didn't want to share. What's wrong? Maya asked, settling beside him in their usual spot. I spoke with my grandfather today, the elder of our village. Ayanna's voice was troubled. I told him about you. Maya's stomach dropped. What did you tell him? Everything. About the forced marriage? About your father selling you to pay his debts? About how you have no choice in your own life? What did he say? Ayana was quiet for a long moment, looking up at the stars. He said I was playing a dangerous game, that nothing good comes from mixing our world with yours, that I should forget about you and focus on my duties to the tribe. Each word hit Maya like a small blade, of course. What had she expected? That somehow this impossible friendship could last? That a respected Apache warrior would risk everything for a ranch girl nobody else wanted? He's probably right, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. This was foolish. We both knew that. Maya. Ayana turned to face her fully. I didn't say I agreed with him. Hope fluttered in her chest like a trapped bird. What? My grandfather is wise. His advice has kept our people safe for 70 winters. But he has never seen you nurse a wounded coyote back to health. He has never heard. You laugh when you thought no one was listening. He doesn't know that you sing to yourself while you work, or that you save bread crust for the wild birds even when there's barely enough food for yourself. Maya felt her cheeks warm. She hadn't realized he had been watching her so closely, noticing so many small details about her daily life. I told him, Ayana continued, that some things are worth the risk, that some connections between people are stronger than the walls our tribes build between each other. What did he say to that? He said I was young and foolish and would probably get us all killed. Ayana's mouth curved into a small smile. Then he asked when I was going to bring you to meet him. Maya blinked. What? My grandfather may be cautious, but he's not blind. He sees that this matters to me in a way nothing else ever has. He wants to judge for himself whether you're worth the trouble I'm causing. The idea was terrifying and thrilling at the same time. Meet Apache elders? Visit their hidden village? Maya had never been more than 20 miles from the ranch in her entire life. I can't just disappear for a day, she said practically. My father would notice. Not for a day. Ayana's voice grew serious. Maya, in 3 days you'll be married, to a man who will never see your worth. You'll spend the rest of your life being owned instead of cherished. Is that really what you want? Of course not. But what choice do I have? You could come with me. The words hung in the air between them. Like a challenge, Maya's heart started racing. Come with you where? To my village. To my people. You could be free there, Maya. Free to choose your own path. Make your own decisions. Free to be yourself instead of what everyone else wants you to be. Maya stared at him. You're talking about running away. I'm talking about claiming your own life. I don't know anything about your world. I can't speak your language, don't know your customs. What if your people don't accept me? Some won't, at least not at first. Change is hard for everyone. But you're stronger than you know, Maya. You've survived 23 years of being unwanted. You can survive learning new ways of living too. Maya's mind was spinning. Leave everything? Disappear into the desert with a man she had known for less than a week? It sounded insane. But then she thought about Ezra Whitman's cold eyes, about spending the rest of her life cleaning his house, cooking his meals, bearing his children if he wanted them, about never again sitting under the stars and dreaming about freedom. What would happen to my father? His debts? Is that your responsibility? He raised me. He's selling you. Ayana's voice was gentle but firm. Maya, you don't owe anyone your entire life because they fed and housed you as a child. That was their duty as a parent, not a favor you need to repay. Deep down, Maya knew he was right. But 23 years of guilt and obligation were hard to shake off in one conversation. I'm scared, she admitted. Of what? Of everything, of leaving, of staying, of making the wrong choice and regretting it forever. Ayana reached over and took her hand. It was the first time he had touched her, and Maya was surprised by how right it felt. His hand was warm and calloused from work, strong but gentle. In my tribe, he said, we have a saying. The spirit that never leaves the nest never learns to soar. You've been caged your whole life, Maya. Don't you want to find out what it feels like to fly? Maya looked at their joined hands, then up at the stars that had been her only confidants for so many years. If I came with you, she said slowly, what would happen between us? I mean, would I just be someone you helped? A charity case? Ayana was quiet for so long that Maya started to worry she had asked the wrong question. Finally, he spoke. Do you remember what you said to the stars that first night? About no man ever claiming you? Maya nodded, embarrassed all over again. I've been thinking about those words ever since. His thumb traced across her knuckles, sending shivers up her arm. In the white man's world, claiming means ownership, taking something and keeping it whether it wants to be kept or not. Yes, but in my language we have a different word. It means to choose with your whole heart, to see someone's true value and pledge yourself to protecting and cherishing it, to bind your spirit with theirs willingly, joyfully. Maya's breath caught. Ayana, you said no man has ever claimed you, but I would like to try. Not to own you, but to choose you, to be chosen by you in return, if your heart is willing. The world seemed to stop spinning. Maya had dreamed of someone saying words like this to her, but she had never really believed it could happen. Now here was this incredible man, offering her not just freedom from Ezra Whitman, but a love she had never dared hope for. I would be choosing a life completely different from anything I know, she said. Yes, I might be terrible at it. I might never really fit in with your people. Maybe. But you might be wonderful at it too. You might discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. Maya looked around at the ranch where she had spent her whole life feeling unwanted and invisible. Then she looked at Ayana, who saw qualities in her that no one else had ever noticed. When would we have to leave? Tomorrow night. The wedding is the day after. Once you're married, it will be much harder to help you escape. Tomorrow night. Less than 24 hours to make the biggest decision of her life. I need to think, Maya said. Of course. Ayana squeezed her hand once, then let it go. But Maya, whatever you decide, know this. You are not worthless. You are not a burden. You are a woman with a beautiful spirit and a kind heart, and any man who doesn't see that is a fool. Maya felt tears welling up again. How had this stranger seen her real value when her own father couldn't? Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me. For the first time in my life, I feel like someone actually sees me. I see you, Ayana said softly, and what I see is worth every risk. That night, Maya lay in her narrow bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow she would have to choose. Safety and misery with Ezra Whitman, or danger and possibility with Ayana. By dawn, she knew what her answer would be. The next evening, Maya packed a small bag with her few precious belongings, her mother's wedding ring, a book of poems she had hidden under her mattress, and the warmest clothes she owned. She left a letter for her father, though she doubted he would care enough to read it. At the oak tree, Ayana was waiting with 2 horses. When he saw her carrying the bag, his whole face lit up with joy and relief. You're sure? He asked. Maya looked back at the ranch house one last time. No lights in the windows, no one wondering where she was or when she would return. No one who would miss her. Then she looked at Ayana, who had risked everything just to offer her a choice. I'm sure, she said. He helped her onto the second horse, then mounted his own. Are you ready? Maya thought about his words from the night before, about spirits learning to soar, about discovering parts of herself she never knew existed. I'm ready, she said. And together, they rode off into the desert, under a sky full of stars toward a future that was uncertain but entirely their own. The Apache village was hidden so well that Maya would never have found it without Ayana leading the way. They had ridden for 2 days through desert canyons and mountain paths that seemed to exist only when you knew exactly where to look. The Iwi village itself was nestled in a natural bowl between towering red rock formations, invisible from the valley below. Maya's first glimpse of Apache life took her breath away. Children ran freely between homes made of brush and hide, their laughter, echoing off the canyon walls. Women worked together preparing food and crafting beautiful baskets, talking and singing as they labored. Men returned from hunting expeditions, sharing their success with the entire community. It was so different from the lonely isolation of ranch life. Here, everyone seemed to belong to everyone else. No one was forgotten or left behind. But Maya quickly realized that not everyone was happy to see her. Ayana's grandfather, a weathered man named Nalnish, greeted her with curious but cautious eyes. "So you are the white woman who has turned my grandson's head upside down," he said in heavily accented English. "Yes, sir," Maya replied, not sure what else to say. The old man studied her for a long moment. "You left your people to come here." "Why?" "Because staying meant marrying a man who would treat me like property. Coming here means a chance to be free." "Freedom must be earned," Nalnish said. "It is not a gift given to outsiders." Some of the other villagers gathered around, and Maya could feel their eyes on her. She heard whispers in their language, saw skeptical looks and unfriendly frowns. A few young women her own age stared at her with open hostility. "She doesn't belong here," one of them said loudly enough for Maya to understand. "She will bring soldiers. She will get us all killed." "Enough," Ayana said firmly, but Maya could see the worry in his eyes. This wasn't going to be easy. Over the following days, Maya tried desperately to prove herself. She attempted to learn Apache words, though the language twisted her tongue in knots. She helped with cooking, though she burned more food than she successfully prepared. She tried to understand their customs but made embarrassing mistakes that left everyone shaking their heads. The worst moment came when she accidentally used water meant for a sacred ceremony to wash her face. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Ayana looked mortified. "I'm sorry," Maya said, her cheeks burning with shame. "I didn't know." An elderly woman named Desba stepped forward. She was Nalnish's sister, and one of the most respected people in the village. Maya had been trying especially hard to win her approval. "Ignorance is not the same as disrespect," Desba said carefully, "but ignorance can still cause harm." That night, Maya sat outside the shelter Ayana had built for her, feeling more alone than she had ever felt in her life. At least on the ranch she had known what was expected of her. Here, she was stumbling blindly through traditions she didn't understand, disappointing people who were already suspicious of her presence. "Having second thoughts?" a voice asked. Maya turned to see Desba approaching with a cup of tea. The older woman sat beside her without being invited, studying Maya's face in the firelight. "Everyone hates me," Maya said quietly. "Not everyone, just most people." Desba's honesty was brutal, but somehow comforting. "You want to know why?" Maya nodded. "Because for generations your people have taken from us our land, our children, our way of life. They have broken every promise, violated every treaty. So when a white woman appears in our village, even one brought by someone we trust, we see danger. I would never hurt anyone here. Maybe not on purpose, but your father probably knows you're missing by now. How long before he comes looking? How long before he brings soldiers?" Maya's stomach twisted. She hadn't thought about that. In her desperation to escape Ezra Whitman, she had focused on her own problems. She hadn't considered the danger her presence might bring to these people who had given her shelter. "I should leave," she said. "Where would you go?" "I don't know. Anywhere but here. I won't let my problems become yours." Desba was quiet for a long moment, sipping her tea. "Do you know why Ayana brought you here?" "Because I asked him to help me." "No. He brought you here because he sees something in you that you don't see in yourself. Something worth protecting." "Like what?" "The same day you arrived, little Dakota fell into the creek. You jumped in without thinking, even though you can barely swim. You got him out but nearly drowned yourself doing it." Desba set down her cup. "None of us had time to react." "But you did." Maya remembered that incident. It had happened so fast. She hadn't even considered the danger. She had just seen a child in trouble and acted. "Yesterday, when the warriors brought back that injured horse, you spent 6 hours with it. You missed meals, ignored your own exhaustion, focused completely on saving an animal that wasn't even yours. It was hurt, yes, and you have the heart of a healer. That matters more than whether you can pronounce our words correctly or remember which water is sacred. Maya felt a spark of hope. So some people might accept me? Some already have, but, Maya, acceptance isn't really the problem. What do you mean? Before Desba could answer, shouts erupted from the village guards posted on the canyon rim. A rider was approaching fast, signaling urgency. Maya's blood turned cold as she recognized the signal pattern. Someone was coming. Multiple someones. And they weren't friendly. The village exploded into organized chaos. Warriors grabbed weapons while women gathered children. Elders began organizing evacuation plans. Everyone had a role, a purpose, a place. In this emergency response, everyone except Maya. She stood frozen as people rushed around her, understanding with horrible clarity what was happening. Her father had come looking for her, and he hadn't come alone. Ayana appeared at her side, his face grim. Maya, we need to get you to the hidden caves with the others. No. The word surprised them both with its firmness. This is my fault. I won't hide while your people pay for my mistakes. You don't understand, these aren't ranchers looking for a runaway daughter. The scouts saw soldiers. Cavalry. They're coming here to fight. Maya's legs nearly gave out. Soldiers meant the government. It meant official business. It meant her disappearance had been reported as an abduction, not a rescue. They think you kidnapped me, she whispered. Yes. The full horror of the situation crashed over her. By running away with Ayana, she had given the authorities excuse to attack this peaceful village. These people who had done nothing wrong were about to pay the price for her freedom. I have to go to them, Maya said. I have to tell them the truth. They won't listen. White soldiers don't come to Apache villages to have conversations. Then what do? Ayana's jaw was tight with anger and fear. We fight. We protect our people. And we hope some of us survive to see tomorrow. Maya looked around at the children being hurried to safety, at the warriors preparing for battle they didn't choose, at the elders who had lived through enough violence to last several lifetimes, all because she had wanted to be free. There has to be another way, she said desperately. Nalnish approached them, his face carved from stone. There is no other way. Your people have come to take you back and punish us for helping you. This is how it always ends when our worlds try to mix. I won't let you die for me, Maya said. Child, you don't have a choice in this anymore. The old man's voice was sad but determined. This stopped being about you the moment those soldiers decided to blame us for your decisions. As the sun set behind the canyon walls, Maya realized that her choice to claim her own freedom might have doomed the people who had tried to help her find it. The weight of that knowledge was almost unbearable. But in the growing darkness, she also felt something else rising inside her. Something fierce and protective and completely new. These people had given her shelter when she had nowhere else to go. Ayana had offered her a love she never thought possible. She wouldn't let them face this fight alone. Even if it cost her everything, Maya was done running away from the consequences of her choices. Tomorrow, she would stand with the Apache against whatever her old world brought to their door. For the first time in her life, she truly understood what it meant to belong somewhere. And she would defend that belonging with everything she had. Dawn came too early and brought with it the thunder of horses' hooves echoing through the canyon. Maya stood beside Ayana on the ridge overlooking their hidden village, watching as nearly 30 cavalry soldiers surrounded the only way in, or out of their sanctuary. At the head of the group sat her father, Thomas Bennett, looking older and more bitter than she remembered. Beside him rode Ezra Whitman, his face twisted with rage. And leading them all was a cavalry captain with cold blue eyes and a reputation for dealing harshly with Indian problems. Maya Bennett, the captain's voice boomed across the canyon. We know you're here. Come out now, and no one needs to get hurt. Maya's hands shook as she gripped the rocky ledge. 20 Apache warriors were positioned around the village, ready to defend their people, but 30 trained soldiers with modern rifles, the odds were terrible. I have to go down there, Maya said. Ayana grabbed her arm. They'll take you back to that banker. They'll punish you for running away. You know what men like that do to women who embarrass them. Maya did know. She had heard whispers about Ezra Whitman's first wife, about bruises that were explained away, as accidents, about a woman who had grown thinner and sadder each year until she died of a weak heart. If I don't go, people here will die, Maya said. Children, elders, good people who only tried to help me. I can't live with that. And I can't live without you. Ayana's voice was raw with emotion. Maya, you asked the stars why no man had ever claimed you. I want to claim you now. Not as property, but as my partner, my equal, the woman I choose above all others. But I can't do that if you walk down there to sacrifice yourself. Tears ran down Maya's cheeks. 3 weeks ago, she had been nobody to anyone. Now she was torn between saving the people she had come to love and staying with the man who had shown her what love really meant. Maya Bennett, the captain shouted again. You have 5 minutes, or we start shooting. Down in the village, Maya could see the hidden positions where Apache warriors waited with arrows nocked and weapons ready. She could see Desba helping elderly villagers into the cave systems. She could see children huddled together trying to be brave, all because of her. There's another way, Maya said suddenly. What? What if they can't blame you for kidnapping me? What if I can prove I chose to come here? Ayana's eyes widened as he understood what she was thinking. Maya, no. It's too dangerous. Everything's dangerous now. Maya stood up straight. Decision made. But I'm done being a victim of other people's choices. Time to make my own. Before Ayana could stop her, Maya began climbing down the rocky path toward the valley floor. Behind her, she heard him calling her name, but she didn't look back. If she looked back, she might lose her courage. The soldiers raised their rifles as she approached, but the captain held up a hand to stop them. Maya walked straight toward the group of mounted men, her chin high despite her racing heart. There she is, Thomas Bennett said coldly, causing trouble like always. Miss Bennett, the captain said formally. I am Captain Morrison. Are you injured? No. Have you been harmed or mistreated by these Apache? Maya looked up at him, then at her father, then at Ezra Whitman, whose eyes promised punishment for the embarrassment she had caused him. No, she said clearly. I have been treated with more kindness and respect here than I ever received in my father's house. Thomas's face darkened. Don't be ridiculous. These savages kidnapped you. No one kidnapped me. Maya's voice grew stronger with each word. I chose to leave. I chose to come here. I chose to stay. Captain Morrison frowned. Miss Bennett, you cannot choose to live among hostile Indians. It's not safe and it's not legal. Legal? Maya laughed, and there was no humor in the sound. It's legal for my father to sell me to a man I fear to pay his gambling debts? It's legal for that man to own me like livestock? But it's illegal for me to choose freedom? You will return with us. Ezra Whitman spoke for the first time, his voice deadly quiet. You are my wife as of yesterday. The ceremony proceeded with or without you. Maya's blood turned to ice. What? I married you in absentia, Ezra continued with a cruel smile. Judge Murphy agreed it was necessary given your temporary mental disturbance. So you see, my dear wife, you belong to me now. Legally and completely. The world spun around Maya. Married without her consent, without even being present? It seemed impossible, but she could see from the captain's expression that it was true. Even if that's legal, she said desperately. A marriage requires both people to agree. Not when one party is clearly not in her right mind, Captain Morrison said. Running off with Apache warriors proves you're not capable of making rational decisions. The only irrational thing I did was wait 23 years to leave. Maya's voice echoed off the canyon walls. I am not mentally disturbed. I am not property. I am a human being with the right to choose her own life. You are a white woman, the captain replied coldly, and you will behave like one. You will return to your husband and your proper place. My proper place? Maya felt fury building inside her like a wildfire. My proper place is wherever I choose it to be. From the ridge above, Ayana's voice rang out clear and strong. She chooses to be with me. All eyes turned upward as Ayana stepped into view, flanked by 24 Apache warriors with arrows drawn. That woman is not your property, he called. Down. Among my people, she has found respect and freedom. She has chosen to stay of her own will. Your people are trespassing on government land, Captain Morrison shouted back, and harboring a white woman against her family's wishes. This is our ancestral land. Nalnish's voice joined his grandson's. The old man appeared beside Ayana, his presence commanding respect even from his enemies. We have treaties, promises made by your government. Treaties can be broken, the captain said with a cruel smile, especially when you violate them by taking our women. Maya saw where this was heading. The soldiers had come here looking for an excuse to attack the village. Whether she went with them or not, people were going to die, unless she gave them something bigger to think about. You want me to prove I chose this? Maya called out loudly enough for everyone to hear. Then witness my choice. Without warning, Maya began climbing back up the rocky path toward Ayana. Soldiers shouted behind her, but she kept going. Her father cursed her name. Ezra Whitman threatened everything he would do to her when he got her back. But Maya climbed. Halfway up the cliff, her hands bleeding from the sharp rocks, Maya stopped and turned around. Everyone was watching her now. Soldiers, Apache warriors, her father, the man who claimed to own her. Ayana, she called out. You said you wanted to claim me. Maya, what are you doing? Ayana's voice was tight with worry. I'm giving them a choice. Maya's voice carried across the canyon. Captain Morrison, my father, Ezra Whitman, you say I belong to you, that I'm your property to control. She climbed higher, now level with the Apache positions. But I say I belong to myself, and I choose to give my heart, my loyalty, my future to this man. Maya pointed at Ayana, not because he owns me, but because he sees me as an equal partner worthy of love and respect. The canyon fell silent except for the whisper of desert wind through the rocks. Maya reached the top and stood beside Ayana, taking his hand in hers. You asked me once what I wanted, she said to him, loud enough for everyone to hear. I want you. I choose you. I claim you just as much as you claim me. Ayana's face transformed with joy and amazement. In front of 2 armies, with her entire future hanging in the balance, Maya had chosen him. Then I claim you, he said, his voice carrying across the canyon like a promise. Not just for today, but for every star in the sky, every grain of sand, in the desert, every breath I draw until my last day. The words Maya had dreamed of hearing her entire life, spoken in front of witnesses who would never let her forget she had been claimed not as property, but as a beloved equal. Captain Morrison's face was red with rage. This changes nothing. She's still legally married to Mr. Whitman. She's still a white woman living illegally among hostiles. Actually, a new voice called out from the canyon entrance, that's where you're wrong. Everyone turned to see a man in a black suit riding into the canyon, followed by several other official-looking riders. Judge Murphy, Captain Morrison said, clearly surprised. What are you doing here? The judge dismounted and pulled out a leather document case. I came to correct a serious legal error. Mr. Whitman, the marriage ceremony you arranged yesterday has been declared null and void. Ezra Whitman's face went white. On what grounds? On the grounds that you lied to me about Miss Bennett's mental state. I've received testimony from several townspeople that she was never mentally disturbed, just unwilling to marry you. A woman cannot be forced into marriage against her will, even to pay her father's debts. Maya felt her knees nearly buckle with relief. Not married, not owned, still free to choose. Furthermore, Judge Murphy continued, I've been investigating reports of Apache raids in this area. What I found instead was a peaceful village trying to avoid conflict with settlers. There's no evidence of wrongdoing here. Captain Morrison looked furious. They're harboring a runaway. They're providing shelter to a woman who chose to leave an abusive situation. Unless you can prove these people have committed crimes, you have no authority to attack them.